Is Apple working on a humanoid robot to take on Tesla, Google, and Nvidia?
Welcome to the All Future Podcast, where we talk about all things to do with technology, including robots. If you're into robots and a lot of other things, please consider subscribing. We're uploading 3 to 4 times a week, and we love to see you back here. So getting into this, robots, very cool, very sci-fi, kind of goes along with all the AI stuff that's been in the news. What's going on with Apple? What's going on with these companies making this investment in robot tech?
So the most recent news here is from Nvidia and Jeff Bezos. They are both investing in Figure AI, and this company has made a really cool demo of a humanoid robot. Kind of looks like the Tesla bot, which we'll talk about in a second. But this company also was previously backed by BMW and Microsoft. So there's a bunch of companies getting into this space with this particular company.
And seems pretty cool. Seems very sci-fi and futuristic. I wonder how far away this is from being consumer viable tech. I know there was some controversy with the Tesla robot and what it was actually doing. Was there really AI going on there? So yeah, like what are your thoughts on where this technology is really at?
Yeah, so the Tesla bot is called Optimus, and I think the most impressive thing there is that when they first announced it, everyone laughed because it was, they even kind of made a joke of it, just having a person come out in a costume dancing on stage, and then they had like a mock-up of what it would look like, just kind of a dummy, and then within a year they had a prototype, and it's been a couple years now, and they actually have one walking around the factory and doing basic tasks. But yes, that is the thing, is this is supposed to be using like Tesla's full self-driving computer and all of the AI neural network stuff that they're working on the full self-driving side of things, because it has to understand the world. So that's what their pitch is here, is that this is doing this differently. But to get it there, they are having to train it with humans doing stuff. So some of these demos, they put it out, and then it's like really exciting. Oh my gosh, this AI is figuring this out. And then someone says, is this actually real? And then I think there was one where Elon even responded, like, for clarification, this was being trained for this particular task and isn't actually AI yet. And I think there was one where it's like folding clothes or something, and people thought there might be a guy on the side who's actually just operating the robot just remotely to actually fold the clothes and stuff like that. It's like kind of one of those things where that's the future vision, and it has to be trained right now. So I don't think we're there anytime in the very near future.
So next year we're not buying robots. We're still
Definitely
pretty
not.
far off of it. That's interesting. But if we go with the premise that a lot of these companies are going with, they're making all these investments in it, that consumer robots are coming, right? Which, if you look at just the history of technology development in mankind in the last 50 years, right? The two things we knew were, well, I'd say 3 things we knew were coming: AI, robots, and flying cars. Don't really have any of them yet, but it seems like this is going to happen. What do you think Apple's play is here? Like, if all of a sudden there are consumer in-home robots, is Apple making robots? Are they getting into robotics? Where do you think they're headed there?
Well, yeah, that's the interesting thing, is they've a lot of times been on the, I guess, smaller side of things. Like the most expensive Apple product I've ever bought was probably like a spec'd out $4,000 laptop, you know? I think it's a kind of product that Apple maybe would be interested in if the market is doing it, but it's also just such a more involved, more expensive product than Apple has done on any sort of scale before. But they do have experiences with robots, right?
Yeah, I mean, Apple does have some robotic patents. They famously have this Daisy robot that does recycling. Essentially, it takes apart iPhones in an interesting way that helps save the parts that they can recycle and put in other things. So Apple's not a stranger to robots, and obviously Apple has the money and resources that if they want to make a robot tomorrow, they could. I think the real question is where is this technology going to really turn the corner and be something that people are actually going to get at a consumer level? Amazon, they have their own Alexa robot, the Astro, which is that little thing with 2 wheels that kind of runs around the house, and in their demo, it brings you a soft drink and then watches for people breaking in or something. It doesn't really seem that useful, so I think it's still pretty far away from the tech making sense for everyday usage, right? And then what I mean by everyday usage is, can this thing do the laundry, right? Like, is it a true multi-use robot that's making your day better? I'm sure that's something Apple would be interested in making if they could, but if it's a $20,000, $30,000 humanoid robot, I can't see Apple doing that anytime soon.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of investment from these companies on humanoid robots. But interestingly, I guess maybe with the exception of Nvidia that I can think of, well, even Nvidia, they would have a lot of these companies are on the manufacturing side. So I could see them using these things internally first. They're investing in this. They get this robot to be made, and then they can use it at their factories to replace mundane tasks or replace tasks that are dangerous for humans at their factories. That definitely could be something for Apple. They have a history of labor issues and stuff at their factories.
Right.
So it's like, oh, it's a robot doing it now.
Yeah. When then the humanoid robotics almost exclusively makes sense on the industrial and military side, right? Like it's like a humanoid robot in your home kind of doesn't really fit the use cases that you're going to have in a home, right? Like if you talk about the example of maybe folding laundry, right? Like a spider-shaped robot would do a lot better than a humanoid robot, right? Like a spider robot on wheels is actually probably better for a home than these more humanoid type robots. Yeah, I could see Apple investing internally in some kind of robotic system like this. I mean, like they did with Daisy, like we just talked about, right? It's not like they sell the Daisy robot. They built it for themselves to use internally.
Yeah.
What's the point where, regular consumers want to buy these things? What's that going to look like? What features does it need to have? How smart is it going to need to be to make sense in a home and be useful, affordable, and safe?
Yeah. Getting it to the affordable side is pretty intense. Like the figure robot is reportedly supposed to be around $250,000.
Oh, no problem. Let's get two.
As an initial prototype, obviously that makes sense. Tesla has talked about aiming for $20,000 for theirs. If we know anything about Tesla, that will be quite a bit more expensive.
So $35,000 if you want to actually move by itself.
Yeah. And that's a software upgrade.
Yeah.
No, but you have people, a lot of people are not down for the $3,500 price tag of the Apple Vision Pro.
Right.
So there would have to be some really intense use case for you to pay 10 times that for a humanoid robot. But I guess to your point about the form factor maybe not making the most sense, I think the difference is it can be trained by humans easily. So
it can watch humans and mimic. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
So as opposed to it may be making more sense that a spider could fold your laundry quicker or whatever, it's like someone has to program it to do that and it has to figure that out versus it can just watch a human. In theory, it could actually just train on video of people folding laundry and various tasks like that, just pulling from YouTube, a demo video of how you do something. This robot could learn that. So I think that's kind of the idea of the humanoid robot form factor and makes sense on the manufacturing side. But yeah, getting it to the consumer side, I guess let's think about it. What are some examples aside from folding laundry?
That's the thing. Like I can't think of anything in my daily life that a robot would vastly improve, especially at those kind of price tags, right? Like again, all the examples really seem more on the industrial side, right? I would say my family farms. We've got a lot of farmland, got a lot of tractors, got a lot of stuff like that. It would make sense to have a robot do labor-intensive farm task, right? I'm not sure in my career, which is, marketing and talking on videos, that a robot's going to make that a lot better.
Yeah.
You look at where robots are already integrated in the home, lawnmowers, vacuums, that sort of thing. Those are kind of purpose-built robots, right? That makes a lot of sense. Do I need a human robot in my home? I don't know, man. I don't know. And I say this, we'll play this in 5 years when I buy my first Apple Vision robot. But like I don't know. I don't know how it's actually going to integrate into people's homes.
Yeah, and is this something Apple would even be interested in? And is it something that they're maybe too far back on? My theory there on them being too far behind is that Tesla was able to catch up seemingly pretty quickly to like getting a robot that can do a lot of things that we've seen for years. If anyone could do it, Apple probably could as well. But yeah, the other reason I can think of for owning it would just be cleaning, yard work, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I guess it's one robot instead of you buying your automatic cat litter box. Also on top of that, you buy your $800 fancy vacuum and mop that vacuums and mops your house. And then you buy this. It's like, instead you can just, your normal vacuum, this robot can use it. Your normal litter box, that it can do it for you. Yeah, I guess that's what I can think of. It doesn't make sense monetarily in my mind. But
sure. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, well, I guess you got to do the math, right? If we live in a future where the average home has 6 or 7 robots in it, like you're kind of talking, It's like, oh, instead of, and I can see the marketing right now for Apple, right? It's almost like Steve Jobs launching the iPhone, where he's like, it's an iPod, it's a phone, it's an internet device, right? You can go like, it'll do your vacuuming, it'll do the lawnmower, and it'll do all these things these other robots are doing, right? Then all of a sudden, maybe that makes sense, right? But this seems pretty far away at this point, right? But you go to a couple years ago, people thought where generative AI and large language models are, people thought that was decades away.
Yeah.
And we're there, right? Like we're there already. Maybe we'll all have robots in 3-4 years.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of a task, because this robot, in theory, wouldn't need to sleep. You could just swap batteries or something.
Yeah.
So what's a task that if I did it 24 hours a day, it would improve my life?
Well, you could start to get weird stuff, right? Like you would have, like, say you want to start a business selling crocheted socks. You have your robot do it 24 hours a day, and it makes all these things for you, right? You get these weird, I don't want to say ethical use cases, but stuff where you got to think about how this is really going to impact humanity. And maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but that's really what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Like the combination of AI and robotics are going to upend a lot of economies, right? And by that, I mean the sectors of the economy. And if you can do most of the low-end blue-collar jobs with a robot, and you can do most of the high-end white-collar jobs with AI, what's left, right?
Yeah.
Like what are we going to do here?
Yeah.
So it's game over, guys. Enjoy our robot overlords.
So between the two of us, it seems like we don't think Apple's probably going to make a consumer-facing humanoid robot anytime soon. But the competition is heating up. Apple does like to compete. They obviously like to do R&D in a lot of areas. So we don't think it's coming, but who knows?
It might. Apple, raise the limit on my Apple Card so I can buy one.